Hi, welcome to the Babson Action Reaction course. What uh, this course is about applying Newton's principles. And before you actually get into applying Newton's principles, it's probably a pretty good idea to have an understanding of what the heck they were and how they might be transferable to the markets. So let's take the first motion. He has three laws of motion. And first law of motion simply says every object in a state of uniform motion tends to remain in that state unless an external force is applied to it. So what that really means is, in the world of baseball, for example, when the pitcher throws that ball, it's in motion, and it's in a state of a uniform motion, and it will stay in that motion until there's a external force applied to it. And as we know in baseball, that usually winds up being a catcher's mitt or a bat hits it, right? And so then when a bat hits it, it tends to go the other way, right? Then the way it came. Okay, well that's fairly obvious. Now his second law of motion, the way I understand it, is that the it gets into really heavy mathematical stuff. So let's put it as simply as possible, and it simply says to me that when that ball hits that bat, it's how fast it's going to go, what angle it's going to go, and how it's going to move really has to do with how and where it hit the bat and how hard the slugger hit it. And then it also has to do with what it may encounter along the way. And probably a better example of that would be if a runner, the guy who hits the ball and he starts running to first base, if he has a nice smooth surface to run on, he'll probably get there to first base faster than if he's got a whole bunch of obstacles in the way that he needs to get around. And let's, and that may sound a little hokey, but let's say, here's the runner, he starts here, and there's little obstacles along the way. And in the market, that might be various reports that come out, that might be just people having overbought and prices just needing to pull back so that people can retrench and buy some more. They just run out of buyers up here, and then they run out of sellers down here. Different things of that nature. That's your second law of motion. But this is important in connection with the first law of motion, because when that ball gets hit and when that runner starts from home plate to first base, he generally keeps on going unless something stops him and gets him to turn around and go back to the dugout, right? And he keeps on going and all around the bases, or stops at first base, or whatever's appropriate. Okay. And now let's move on to the third law of motion. Where is that? There's the third law of motion. There we go, third law of motion. He says for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And I guess the analogy that they use here is they simply say is that when we step off a boat onto the bank of a lake, as we move in the direction of the shore, the boat tends to move in the opposite direction. Well, that may be, but how this works in the market is that, let's say you have a move, and the move goes from, let's say it goes from here to here. Okay, so the move goes from here to here. Actually goes a little further, but goes from here to here. And you say, well, this was the movement. And what really cool things you can do is you can take this action over here to help you understand where reaction is likely to be that is opposite. So let's take a look how that might work here. Take the low here. Take the high here. And here you have your center line, and here you have your action, and here you have your reaction area. Okay, so hope this gives you some kind of a good idea. Let me put this on hold for a second before I get to the next step. Okay, moving on to this, a little more detail on the action reaction. Let's see an example of this. Let's say, for example, in this particular case here, and it's been predetermined that the proper center line is this line here. So it's this peak to low line here. And so you simply take your high here, and let's say your low here. And what you find is that this action here effectively communicated that this here was going to be a reaction point. Okay, and in the course we'll show you ways that you can help and verify that. Okay, because that's using this line alone doesn't really do it. And let's see this again. You start here again, and the further this goes out, the less reliable it is sometimes. But nevertheless, here we go. Oh, that was pretty good. Here's your action. Here's your reaction point here's your action point. Here's your reaction point. Notice that this area here is equal to this area here, and opposite of this move down here, right? Equal and opposite, but it's nevertheless a continuation of the up move. Okay, let's see what happens here. Here we can see that prices stopped there, blasted through, and came back down and used this area here effectively as support. So let's draw the last one. That would be this line about here. And so we can see once again action and reaction are equal and opposite. So it gives you an idea of approximately where these pivots will occur. And there are other indicators you want to use in conjunction with it. You don't just use this alone. And then there's also methodology that you can research if you like. That's in the original notes of Andrews that shows what he claimed is supposed to be the most beneficial method for determining the action points and determining the center line that you have here. So without any further ado, we are going to end this particular video, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, we will get into a whole bunch more detail, but it's important that you get the basis down, because remember that action that it's really important that once you have this important event occur, or the important whatever occurred, then you will have a continuation until it is over for whatever reason. And this is really the basis of Newton's action reaction. So when object will tend to stay in motion unless something goes wham and knocks it and makes it go the other way. And then just remember that along the way there are these little whams, okay, or points of resistance, so to speak. If the pitcher has to run from, or the guy who hits the ball has to run from one point to another point, and if there's obstacles along the way, then he has to get around those obstacles, and they will be some form of resistance. And if you think of it that way, that's really what's going on. All right, so see you in the next video. Bye.